Good morning, everyone. This is my first tutorial, so we'll see how this goes. I can just kind of walk you through what I did for correcting my skin tone. I've been working on it for a while now. It's been something that I've also struggled with. So basically, this is one of the photos that I was working with the other day. It's basically the same thing. In a separate video, I'll show you how I corrected the background. So basically I have presets that I've created myself. I just have a whole bunch of them. This is the one that I used. I based it off of, let's see, this one. This is kind of my go-to preset that I've created for all of my photos. I've been using this one as well. I think this is what I went off of. It's kind of just got more warmer tones, still very natural. So let's go with this one, since this is kind of where I started off with, and we can just look at the settings here. Let's see. Okay, so first off, I guess I can start with the white balance. It's kind of a little bit yellow. I don't know if I like it that much. If I go here on my skin tone, my red is super high. Up, you'll see it up right in here. My red is super high. My blues are super low, which is fine. It's still just a little bit yellow. So I can take my dropper, which is what I've been doing for almost all my photos, and you can find a neutral. So my blues are low, my greens are pretty high. If you can't really find a neutral, so you want all those numbers to roughly be about the same percentage. Let's see, I will take my blue or cool it down just a little bit, and I'm going to bring up my tint just a little bit, and then we're going to go back and we're going to check again. Let's find a nice gray. So we're getting closer. Still a little bit green. I'm going to bring my tint up just a little bit more. Now it's a little pink, but we'll check again. Okay, so we're pretty close. Still showing a little bit of green. Let's see what happens when we click. That's pretty close. So we went really pink. I don't know if I like that as much. I'm going to bring it back. Okay, that's looking a little bit better. Let's go with our dropper tool again. It's getting closer, still a little bit green, so I'm actually going to scroll all the way down to the bottom and just play with this and see what we get with that. You can see how it's changing the color of my skin, bringing in green, making it more pink. So let's just scoot that a little bit this way and see what that's given us. Okay, so that's looking a lot better. Alright, so now our blues are a little bit low. Let's just pull that back. And it's just really minor adjustments, basically. It doesn't have to be exact. You do want to try to get it as close as possible. So I think that's okay. I might bring my pink up just a tad. Okay. Let's see how that compares to, yep, so it's pretty close. The rest of it is playing with, let's see, I think we threw in a little bit more contrast in there. Honestly, everything else looks okay. I mean, that's pretty close. Oops. I think we had toned down our highlights just a little bit. Maybe our exposure just a tad. Just because when we do dodge and burning in Photoshop, we'll bring back in some of that light. And I think that looks pretty good. So let's put our dropper back. If I go over my skin, my blues are low, my greens are pretty middle, and my reds are higher. Generally, I guess that's what you want to see. A higher blue and green will give you some weird tints. I like my skin tone now for this one. I think that's about it for that. Let's go to this picture, which might be a little bit more challenging. It's very greenish. If we use our little mouse tool and look at what we're seeing in here, greens are really high. There's, yeah, my skin's just, it's okay, but it's kind of pink. So I think this is what I came out with. Not something that I'd be totally happy with, but the lighting that we were dished out here is not very great. Obviously, your skin's going to change color with what your light's reflecting off of. These walls are like a weird yellowy eggshell color, so I'm going to get some yellowish greenish tints in there. So this is where I usually start with. Let's try this. And my skin's already looking pretty great, although I do want to correct my background a little bit with that. So let's just try to bring that up slightly. And see, we're already getting a wider background, but now my skin is turning a little bit pink. And I don't know if I necessarily want pink skin. So let's go into here and see what we're working with. Alright, so we're kind of pinkish red. If I move this around, you can see my lips changing color. You can also see my skin changing tones slightly. Now I don't want to lose my blush in my cheeks or the pink on my lips, so I'm just going to pull that slightly this way just to minimize the redness a little bit. Let's see what our oranges are doing. So you see what our oranges are doing. Oh, and we're in hue too. So I want to pull that up just a touch because my skin is looking just a little bit red. Now my yellows are back, and that's fine. You can see what my yellows do. A lot of it has to do with my hair. Let's pull this that way. I think that's about where it was. That looks okay. Let's see what our greens do. Okay, so that's adjusting a lot. But that's good. Let's go just this way a little bit and see how the entire picture is starting to change. I think that looks great. That looks pretty good. And of course, my skin won't be as vibrant in this picture just because of the light that's reflecting. But I think it looks pretty good. We can add some contrast in there if we wanted to. You can brighten it up a little bit. You can do more of your light adjustments there. But we have a good skin tone. Okay, so this picture is a lot more challenging. Instead of using my preset, which is still a little bit bright, let's just go ahead and straight edit this one. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to raise my exposure a little bit so I can see what I'm dealing with. I don't like to totally blow out my face here because if I do dodge and burn again, that'll just make me look like I'll just have a lot of shine here, and that's less than desirable, I guess. So, and it does say pick a target neutral. Let's see, so we're showing a lot of green. Let's bring in just a little bit of tint. Let's see where that puts us. So our blues are kind of low. Let's lower that just slightly. And so I have all of this like bright green behind me. My entire backyard is surrounded by these vibrant green trees, and my house is a tannish white, so there's going to be a lot of weird light that's reflecting onto me from this picture. Actually, we're getting pretty close to neutral ground here already. Perfect. Let's go ahead and click that. So that made my skin really pink. Let's go down and start adjusting our reds, our oranges, our yellows, and our greens, which are going to help our skin tone. Again, if you look at our skin right now, all my colors are really low. And I'm sorry if what I'm saying doesn't really make sense. I don't usually talk out loud when I edit. Okay, so let's just raise that slightly because my skin was pretty red. If you saw what just that little bit did, it's kind of balancing out the red tone in my skin. My skin is a little bit more red naturally, so keep that in mind when you're editing people's skin tones. Some people do have a more red skin tone. Some people are more olive. Obviously, the darker your skin tone, the lighter your skin tone. Just try to keep in mind what they looked like in person, because obviously my skin is a little bit more red. I don't want to pull this all the way up here and completely wash myself out. That's just not what I look like. And my lips too, they lose a lot of color, so keep in mind when you're editing your skin, there's a lot of factors to play in. So I'm just going to bring that up just a little bit. Let's go about 9 or 10. And I think that looks pretty good. My lips are still pretty pink. So I sometimes just like to move this real quick to see how my skin is varying there. Let's pull that slightly up just because my oranges were a little bit red. And this will also help with redness too. There, my skin's starting to look pretty even. Let's see where our yellows are at. Okay, so obviously we pull this back this way. We're getting a lot more orange. And pull this way, we're getting a lot more green. So this is kind of a tricky one because I don't really know where I want to go with this. Let's pull it just this way a little bit because I want to balance out all those yellow tones that we were getting in there. Okay, here's our greens. That definitely helps, but we bring back a little bit more yellow into our picture. I guess I would try to, I want to tone down my greens a little bit in the background, so I'm just going to pull it that way slightly. And I'm just not liking how vibrant those greens were, and I want kind of a cooler tone picture. I don't want anything super warm. So let's just go to our saturation and take a look at how that is working. Okay, so we can see all the red spots in my skin. We can pull this back slightly. Now with our oranges. Honestly, my skin after doing the correcting looks a tiny bit washed out, so I'm actually going to bring in a little bit of orange, just a tiny bit. And my yellows, let's see what those are doing. So there's not too much yellow in my skin. There's a lot of yellow in my hair. Let's just pull it back a tiny bit to balance out my hair because I don't need fiery sunshine hair. And our greens, I'm just going to take those back slightly because again, I just don't want overwhelming greens in the background, and it also helps to balance out the reflection that we got around my hair and maybe a little bit on my skin. So let's look at our skin up here and see where we're at. I'm just going to take it on more neutral parts of my skin, maybe like right here. That's looking pretty good. Obviously this is going to be a little bit more red there. That's just what my skin is, unfortunately. But our skin is looking pretty good. Obviously, when we go back up here, we can start playing with basically how you like to edit. I'm a natural light, true to color type of editor. So if you are putting presets on and you like a preset, this is going to change. Really, I can't tell you how I would edit skin tone if you do apply a preset, because basically everything within that preset, if you come down here, oh, you can also mess with these to correct your skin. I did not go over that. We could even bring this up a tiny bit. See what our greens do here. We can just leave those alone. See what our blues do. We can actually pull this back just a tiny bit and see what our shadows are doing. This brings in more green, that brings in more pink. We could probably leave up the pink just slightly. You can play around with these too after you have done your skin correcting in here. We did not do Loom. Let me go over that quick. See how this is brightening and darkening my skin in the red spots. I can bring that up just a tiny bit. Same with the oranges. Not too much though, because we don't want to blow out my skin. And our yellows. Let's bring our yellows up just a little bit. And our greens, I'm just going to drop those because the greenery behind me was insane. After that, you can play with all of your highlights, shadows. If you like more clarity in your photos, I'll put maybe a little bit in there. Basically, the rest is what you do when you edit. But that's how I go with my skin editing. Thank you for watching. Hopefully that helped someone. Might be a little confusing. If you have questions, please just ask me. I don't do this very often, if at all. So, yeah, okay. Thanks, guys.